How are you?
We give you a copy of our presentation.
Perfect. All right.
Okay, yeah. Nice to meet you in person.
All right. Dominic, nice to meet you. All right. We'll call this meeting of the Board of Commissioners to
Nolan. Winfrey. Here. Ellenberg. Here. Clemens.
present.
Avery.
Present.
Shoemaker.
Present.
Davis. Present. Newman.
Here.
Peppin.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Before we move on, I do want to share that we're saddened to learn of the passing of former Board Chairman Richard Hamill. Chairman Hamill served on the Board of Commissioners from January of 1971 until April of 1981. In addition to a service here at the county, Chairman Hamill also served at the Mount Morris Board of Trustees and as Managing Director of the Genesee County Road Commission. In his honor, our flags at the Genesee County Courthouse have been lowered to half-mast today, and I would ask that everyone please join me in a moment of silence for former Chairman Richard Hamill. Thank you. And at this time, I will turn it over to Commissioner Meredith Davis for our invocation.
My guest speaker today is Joyce Sabuco. She's my coworker, and she's inspired me in more ways than I can count. So, Joyce, right here.
Good morning, Commissioners and all who are gathered here today. We pause to give thanks to God. Dear God, please watch over the Commissioners' hearts so they may work together to achieve the supposed impossible. Please give them wisdom and courage to face many challenges, which make life interesting, but overcoming those challenges makes their life meaningful. We pray that they would fulfill their important role in making our county a better home for all of us. Please guide the Commissioners, and we ask that you grant them a sense of welfare for the true needs of our people, the ability to work together in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives, and joy in their tasks. Commissioners, thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. And remember, the most valuable real estate is the space you occupy in other people's hearts, and one small positive thought can change your whole day. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on our agenda is approval of the draft minutes from the April 6th board meeting. It has been moved and supported. Is there any discussion or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from April 6th, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion is adopted. That'll move us on to public address of the board. Is there any members of the public wishing to address the board? They can do so at this time. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. We ask that before you begin, you state your name and your city of residence.
Hi, I'm Christy Groce. I am with AdvisaCare. I live in Davison, Michigan. I am here along with one of my coworkers, Julie, to ask the county to put us on your agenda so we could come and give a presentation for the auto no-fault reform that had happened this past July and how it affects home care agencies. My company is for the reform. We feel like it was needed, but we do feel that the home care agencies were an unintended consequence to that. We are getting reimbursed by auto insurance companies at the rate of $16, sometimes even less than that, to $18 an hour. And that's what you pay your caregivers to go into a person's home. It is affecting a lot of the constituents within Genesee County. We have a lot of clients that we service there that need people to come into their home to be able to get the care they need to survive. So we are just asking that we can be put on the agenda so we can come, give a presentation, have it be more of an open floor format so you guys can ask us questions and we can answer those questions for you. Thank you. I didn't write my name. I'm going to do it really quick.
I'm Julie Wagner with AdvisaCare Home Health Care. I live in the city of Flint, and my job with AdvisaCare is I get to talk to the patients and their families and case managers. But the bad part of my job lately is me telling them, I'm sorry you're paralyzed from the neck down. We can't take care of you. Because the insurance companies want to pay, as she said, $14 to $18 an hour. Well, if you want good staff who knows what they're doing, we pay that. We're asking different counties to help with a resolution to send to the governor. Yes, we know that there was needed reform. If there were companies that were billing hugely, it wasn't us. And therefore, to cut by 45%, I don't think anybody can take a 45% cut in your pay. In your paycheck, and to have to tell these families weekly, we can't take care of you. And some of the responses I'm getting from insurance companies, because that's what I do too, is, well, is there a nursing home nearby? People have lived in their homes for all these years and have been doing just fine. They've stayed out of the hospital. They've stayed out of nursing homes. And now they want to send them to live in nursing homes away from their families or to live in hospitals. People are being dropped off. There have been 8 deaths because of the auto no-fault victims not having care. We are just asking, let's do a resolution. Let's tell the governor, yes, let's fix this, but there's other ways to fix it. Let's, come together as a group and see what we can do. Thank you.
Wait, Mr. Woodson, I want to make sure we do have a line.
Say what?
Okay, I just want to make sure we
Oh, yeah.
don't missing anybody.
Good morning. I'm standing here today. We have a serious issue here in the city of Flint, and it's not new. It's just that it's starting to become where you can see it. Genesee County has not given one single dime towards the water crisis, and I feel like they played a serious role in what happened to the city of Flint. Our kids, it was more than just lead, but our kids was affected the most. And I was sitting here last week when Attorney Layton asked for some assistance over in his office. In order for us to help our kids need a lead court like they have a drug court, a veterans court. I know that money is tight, but you have the money to assist in doing this. We need a lead court for our kids because through no fault of their own, they were poisoned. And at the last time I looked, we had 28% special need in our school. And then we don't know what's getting ready to happen after the lawsuit where they have to be tested at the NCE and determine that over 1,000 kids are, behavior issues. So we definitely need this. I emailed Commissioner Nolden the cancer cluster study. Can you all please call up the health department because they are fighting to get a cancer cluster study. We're not asking for any money for this. We just need your support to go up to Governor Whitmer because she's the person who's preventing us from getting this. And at least have a resolution drawn up to where you show support for that. Thank you.
Good morning, guys. Sasha Keller, Burton, Michigan. So two things. What my friend here, Arthur, said about the cancer cluster study, that was like the biggest wealth grab on the middle class, what happened here in Genesee County to the Flint residents. People were driven out of their homes, generational homes, a lot of them paid for. They lost all their asset in their homes. Is anyone gonna pay them back for making their community unlivable and having to leave their homes? I mean, these homes were going up for sale for like $4,000. These were beautiful homes that people invested their life savings into, that they counted on to retire or give to their children, to give their children a leg up. And now they have nothing. They had to go become renters. So I think that's crap. Instead of giving him an increase in his job and the prison a new freaking dishwasher and everything else you guys waste freaking money on, let's talk about the residents who were forced from their homes. Let's talk about the children. Let's talk about cancer clusters and how they're popping up everywhere. Was that a plan so that these universities could come in, special interest lobbyists could come in and buy up the land, make a profit on the backs of the people? I'm just wondering. And why did Whitmer and her little cohorts why did Dana Nessel drop the lawsuit looking into this, the RICO case? I would like to know that as well. Does anybody care? And now we don't just hurt our children, we like to hurt in Genesee County our elderly as well. I mean, of course Whitmer doesn't care. She was putting COVID positive patients in nursing homes, killing them off. Democrats are crazy. Vote Republican.
April Snyder, Grand Blanc. So I was listening this morning to the words that you spoke, Commissioner Clemens, back in January at the first meeting, and they were some really beautiful words, and they were inspiring and hopeful for the year, that it wasn't just going to be politics as usual. But I think we sit here meeting after meeting, week after week, and I don't know how you guys feel, but I really don't think and see much is changing. We have an election supervisor that's on suspended leave without pay. We have a county clerk that has been arrested for fraud and intimidation. And we have a health department that has a lawsuit pending and a health director that has a lawsuit pending because she never took her oath of office and she hasn't been serving legally. And yet business just keeps going along as usual. And I know money has to be spent. I'm not sure that we're doing that frugally and in the best interest of the county as a whole. I hear people come week after week and express concerns about how money is being spent. And I just don't know that there's any pause to that. I know you guys have meetings behind the scenes, and if some of those things are really deemed necessary, maybe there needs to be more communication with the community than you guys just sitting in your meetings and saying, this is what we decided. Like, you do owe us an explanation. You work for us. You're elected by us. When you get up here, you're bipartisan. You really don't have a side that you're on. The only side you're on is for this county and for the people. And you owe us that clarity. I understand there's some things that you may not be able to discuss, but overall, I think we are entitled to more clarification about why you guys are making the decisions you're making, where the money is going, why it's going there, and trying to make more of an effort to make a bigger change in this community because it's not happening.
Tara Phillips, Linden, Michigan. Are our elected officials ever held accountable for what they say they stand for when running for office? We just went through a critical time in history. How many of you took the time to stand and are still taking a stand to fight for our Constitution, our future generation, and our small businesses? How many of you went throughout your communities you represent to see what challenges people are faced with? Taking a stand doesn't mean doing it 6 months before your re-election is up. It means taking a stand while you sit in these seats. Our world has been faced with so many challenges over the last 2 years. As horrible as they were, and still are, we need to look at them and almost take them as a blessing. Because if we didn't go through them, we would not see how corrupt our system and our elected officials really are. We have a constitution to protect us. It's being trampled on as if it doesn't exist. But that's our fault because we haven't taken the time to see who we elected in these seats. If you're not questioning at least one thing going on in our world right now, I challenge every person in Genesee County to help with canvassing. You will soon discover what corruption in our elections looks like. But don't take my word for it. You need to come to this conclusion yourself. Thank you.
Is there any other member of the public wishing to address the board? Any other public comment? Public comment is now closed. That'll move us on to communications. We have an audit presentation from Plant Moran.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Pam Hill, audit partner with Plant Moran, and I have here with me today Amanda Kronk, who's senior manager at Plant Moran, and Amy Titar, who was the senior on the engagement this year. So thanks for having us here today. We are here to talk about the audit for the September 30th, 2021 fiscal year. And you should have in front of you the graphs that we're going to cover today. You should have also received the financial statements. We do not plan to cover all 220-some pages today. Otherwise, we'd probably be a much longer meeting. So we did prepare the graphs to kind of cover these, the highlights of the audit. So on the first graph, this just mentions our deliverables and what you should have received in your packet. We did spend about 1,200 hours this year auditing the books and records of the county. So as you can imagine, that's quite a bit of time on our end, but also on your team's end. So we really just wanted to thank Crystal and Christy and really the entire finance team, also Commissioner Clemens and Pepin, as we work through various audit issues, timelines, and those things. So we really appreciate your support throughout the process. You should, again, have in your packet the financial statements. Again, not going to go through those in detail, but I did want to point out that we did issue an unmodified opinion this year. So that's the highest level of assurance that you can receive. Basically means that the numbers as they are presented in the financial statements can be relied on. You also will have another letter addressed to the Board of Commissioners that we're not going to go through the letter in detail. I know you've had a chance to kind of read through it, but I will touch on a few highlights in the next slide. And then we are in the process of auditing your federal awards. As I know you're well aware, you did receive quite a bit more federal money over the last year. So we are in the process of auditing that, and that is due to the feds by June 30th. So we are working through that audit right now. And then once that audit is over, we will, well, actually not once that's over, but probably concurrently in about May, we will start auditing the retirement system as well. So with that, if you want to flip to slide 3. So one of the items in the letter that I just wanted to touch on, and we'll see a little bit more details of the figures as Amy gets into the next slides, but one of the items that we wanted to touch on and we talk through every year is just the fiscal health of the county's general fund. So you'll see that the fund balance at the end of fiscal year 2021 was about $40 million. Of that, $19 million is expected to be used in the 2022 budget, based on the budget that was passed by the commissioners. So that leaves about $20 million of unassigned fund balance at the end of 2021, based on a budget of about $80 million in expenses. So you have about 25% of total expenses sitting in unassigned fund balance at the end of 9/30/2021, which is probably at the low end of, you don't want to be much lower than that, right? So from a cash flow standpoint, being able to make sure you're paying the bills, all of those kind of things, you want to make sure to continue to watch that. So along those lines, given some of the long-term legacy challenges that I know we've talked to the board about in the past, it's really important to continue to monitor that fund balance level, as I know you do, especially, again, with the legacy costs. So looking out at your retiree healthcare liability, those assets are expected to be depleted by 2027, which is not very far from now. They're currently not covering all the costs anyway that the county has to pay for retiree healthcare. I believe current contribution this year was around $15 million. By 2023, that's going to be projected by the actuary to be over $22 million. So that's a $7 million increase in expenses coming out of the general fund in the next 7 to 8 years. And by 2024, it's going to top out at about $25 million. So very significant increases in dollars and challenges that the county is going to face in terms of retiree health care. Also, your pension contribution is expected to increase, definitely not as significantly as your retiree health care. The county has closed all of their plans, some 20, 25 years ago, and some as recent as about 15 years ago. So those will continue to remain relatively consistent, maybe some slight increases, and then hopefully in about 20 years, you'll see a drop as the plan members continue to decrease. So why am I telling you all this, right? So we're talking about the fiscal health of the general fund, but really what we're recommending is continuing to look at long-term forecasting for that fund and along with cash flow projections, just to continue to monitor what the impact of current decisions are on a long-term perspective, and also the legacy costs that have already been promised, what those payments mean to the county from a long-term perspective. So can you pay the bills next year? Yes, but what about 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What does that look like? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amy, and I'm going to have her just talk in a little bit more detail on some of the trends of the general fund on slide 4.
Sure. So on this slide, you'll see a graph that shows you the 5-year history of just the general fund's fund balance. Overall, you can see the general funds, the total fund balance has been decreasing over the past 3 years from about $42 million to $39.5 million, as Pam mentioned. If we take a bit of a deeper look and dive into the components of fund balance, you will see 3 categories. The smallest piece, which is there in blue, is non-spendable, which represents the general fund's prepaid balance. The larger pieces here, though, are highlighted in red, which is assigned, and orange, which is unassigned. As you can see, the red piece of the bar graph has been fluctuating a bit over the past 5 years. The current year assigned balance, which is that $19 million we brought up earlier, primarily relates to planned OPEB contributions and planned capital projects in the future. The remaining balance after non-spendable and assigned is unassigned, and this amounted to about $20 million this year. I know this is a lot of information, but what you should take away from this slide is to continue monitoring the uses and sources of revenue over the next few years and ultimately the fiscal health of your general fund, as Pam hit on earlier. Now, as we just finished discussing the general fund's fund balance, I wanted to briefly hit on property taxes, as it is one of the largest sources of revenue for that fund. This next slide is showing you a snapshot of where taxable values have been in the past few years and where they are expected to go. You can see where we start here in 2009, taxable value was between $11 and $11.5 billion roughly. In a matter of about 4 years, you can see that taxable value bottomed out at roughly, $8.5 billion. Fast forward to right now, 2021, we are only about halfway back to 2009 levels, and this is due to Proposal A and Headley limitations on how quickly taxable value can increase. It is estimated that it won't be until around 2026, based on how this trend graph is looking, until taxable value is close to 2009 levels. So the takeaway of all of that information for you is that when focusing on the stability of the general fund and taking into consideration one of your largest sources of revenue, we can see that the taxable value fell very quickly. However, the rise is on a much, much slower timetable. So just keep that in mind. Lastly, on this next slide, you will see a similar graph to what I just went over for the general fund, but this is all other governmental funds, the 5-year history. From an overall perspective, total fund balance for the other governmental funds only decreased slightly from last year. But breaking it down further for 2021, we can look at the categories. The green section represents non-spendable, which is the combination of prepaid and inventory balances for these funds. The blue piece of the bar is assigned, which is intended to be used for specific purposes and is primarily composed of assignments ranging from parks and recreation to child care purposes. The red section is the restricted balance, which represents funds that have a legal or third-party restriction. The restrictions in this category range from grant-related restrictions to millage-related restrictions. And then lastly, in orange, you will see the unassigned category, which is the residual balance after non-spendable, assigned, and restricted. Overall, it is important to note, taking all this information into consideration, that most of these resources in the other governmental funds can only be used for certain types of activities, as you can see by the large part of the bar being assigned and restricted. Next, I'm going to pass it off to Amanda here to walk you through business type activity results for the year.
We did just want to give you a quick snapshot of where your business type activities are. And just as a quick refresher, your business type activities are primarily delinquent tax revolving, so your collections of delinquent taxes, along with parks and rec, commissary, and parking meter revenue. So as you can see on these bars here, again, we're showing you 5-year trend. If you look at the far to right bars, you'll see a pretty good increase from 2020 to 2021. And that really is being driven by your delinquent tax revolving fund collections. So there was a really big push in that area this last year, and collections were up significantly from the prior few years. So that really is driving that total net position up to the $37.6 million that you see. The next slide shows you just the unrestricted portion. There are some small restrictions in those funds, but by and large, again, you can see the large increase up to the almost $28.9 million, again, being driven from those significant cash collections and that big push to collect those delinquent taxes in the delinquent tax revolving fund. So the county really did see a large increase in those cash collections, which again reduces the delinquents that you've taken on from the local units. So Pam set these next few slides up nicely. We did just want to provide you a snapshot of where your portion of your pension liability is at, along with your OPEB liability. So slide 9, we're going to start with pension. Now there's a lot of numbers on here. We've given you some trends to take a look at, but I'd like you to focus on the far right column. That funded ratio really is focusing on your assets that you've set aside for those benefits compared to what the actuary has estimated your total liability to be. Right now, as of 12/31/2020, which aligns with GSER or the retirement system's year end, you're about 65% funded. So as you can see, you've been trending, high 50s to mid 60s for the last 5 years. So you're in the middle of the pack. I know that you've been heavily focused on all legacy costs, not just pension, but you'll see when we get to OPEB that the story isn't quite the same. But from a pension standpoint, you're making your required contributions, which is required by the state, as you know. So again, your funded percentage, your assets compared to your liabilities, is hovering around 65%. Taking a look at your post-employment health benefits, we'll do the same comparison. So if you compare the assets that you've set aside in trust compared to what the actuary is estimating your total liability to be, you're at about 1.5% funded. So again, if you take a look at the last 5 years or so, you're hovering right around the same percentage. So again, Pam mentioned earlier, we know it continues to be a focus of the board. We encourage you to continue focusing on it because, as she mentioned, you haven't hit the top of your contributions yet. So continuing to look at how that impacts your general fund will be important. Real quickly on slide 11, so you did have a few funds in deficit this year, only one of which requires a deficit elimination plan with the state, and that is the Community Action Resource Department. So management has taken a look at that and will file the appropriate deficit elimination plan. The other three, Brownfield Authority, Flint City Lockup, and Sheriff Contracted Services, while they are in deficit, are not required to file a plan with the state due to the criteria. So management is looking into that right now. With that, we, at Mr. Chairman's direction, are happy to take any questions that you may have, whether it be on the audit or the deliverables.
Any questions? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you. Through the chair, I have three, if I may, just right now, and I might continue
Go ahead and continue on.
So
Yep.
from there. First of all is, I saw our unfunded liability, basically, and am I understand that we're at almost $800 million
Are you focused in total?
in total?
Yes.
So the OPEB is 555, and then the pension is
130.
130, so
So the sum of those.
685, yep.
685, so
Yep.
almost $700 million. Over how long is that?
In perpetuity, yep. So the actuary takes into account mortality rates of the participants. So they estimate out until that person hits their mortality what the liability for that one person will be.
And just so, some of these questions, I'm sorry, are rhetorical, but I want everything out there.
You're okay.
And our average budget here we spend is just under $100 million at the county.
Yeah, I think the general fund
General
was
fund,
80
yes.
million
Yeah.
in 2021.
Okay.
So, and I just want to clarify the pension in perpetuity. So the pension plans are all closed.
Correct.
So at some point, as the members are no longer in the plan, that liability will go away. So, and I think it's projected to, and again, this is all actuarial, numbers, so who knows what actually will happen, but I think the pension, it's estimated to drop significantly, the contribution, in about 20 years. So,
With our current fund balance, though, and the fact that revenues under Headley are limited as much as we can increase, I can't help but say, or this is my thought and opinion, and I mean, if you can't answer, fine, but it seems like we're headed down the rails on a train that, guess what, has no track at the end. Because there's no revenue source great enough to come up with $700 million and keep the county running in the condition it's in, or at the current state it's at.
yeah, so, and so that's, especially on the OPEB side, because pension contributions, you have been paying that dollar amount for quite a while. But I do think as people in the OPEB plan, begin to retire and are collecting on those benefits as projected by the actuary, by 2030, your contribution is projected, and I shouldn't say contribution, your pay as you go to pay for the retiree benefits is going to go up over $7 million. So, looking at that to see, what can we do now to help, set us up for the future when those contributions are going to be much more, I think is definitely an important exercise to go through.
And if I may continue, I believe you guys provided us a graph a few years ago of actually the healthcare side of it, where the costs were and all the other stuff, and they were quite astonishing, and I'm still concerned how we're going to get there. My next question is are you guys comfortable with us just retaining a $19 billion fund balance? Is that, really where most municipalities should be?
So I think, so there's not really, there's not really a right level of fund balance, right? So it all depends, every community is different. So the state would have come out a while back with kind of a very minimum fund balance, right? But the larger the budget, and this might seem a little odd, the percentage is a little less because dollar-wise, it's a bigger amount, right? So 25% is definitely on that lower end of the range, kind of the minimum that you'd want to be at. But I think given the long-term legacy challenges that you have, it would definitely be interesting to see what a long-term projection looks like when you look out 5 to 10 years to say, if we keep kind of going down this path, here's the bills we know we're going to have to pay. What is our fund balance going to look like given these increases that we have? And we haven't done those, so I haven't seen any projections like that, so it's hard to say. But given the staggering dollar increases that you can see in OPEB, yeah, I can definitely see where there's going to be challenges in the future.
And I think you're being very politically correct and polite. I would like to say it's just a challenge. I think it's a nightmare for the residents of our county, but I thank you for trying to be positive and put a spin on it. That's very nice of you. But my next question is this, is when you guys figured these, did we figure in the cost of inflation to the health plans and everything else like that? That was figured in there?
Yeah, so the actuary includes inflationary increases, wage increases, healthcare trend rates, and those types of things as well.
It just may continue. Are those inflation rates figured at normal inflation rate or what we're dealing with right now?
It would be more of a normalized, so this valuation looks over the next 30 years. So they're looking at, okay, if we look out over the next 30 years, we expect inflation to be X number. You know, they understand it may go up, it may go down, but over the next 30 years, that's what they're expecting inflation to do. So to your point, it might be low compared to inflation that we're seeing now, but at a different period in the next 30 years, it could flip the other way.
No,
So-
there's waves to it.
Yep,
obviously,
there's
but-
waves. So they try to even it out to make it, to smooth it out as much as they can for you. They don't want you taking the waves as they come.
And this is, right now, you know, we're at a 40-year high of inflation, you know, which is very unprecedented, you know, but it's where we are. I just asked those questions. I thank you for that. If I may, I know I don't sit on finance, and I know I haven't been involved in that, but if we could arrange a meeting for, and I don't know any other commissioners that would like to participate, but I would like to sit down with them and actually have a few more discussions at a deeper level instead of just, you know, 2 Mile High level. I'd like to have a discussion a little, that could allow me to actually ask a few more questions. It might take a little more time for them to get answers and so on and so forth. So if we could arrange something, that would be fantastic. I don't know if any other board members would like to participate in that, but I would surely like to have some time to inquire some more. So thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation also.
Does anyone else have any questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That'll move us into our agenda. The first item under Board of Commissioners is Resolution 22-238, approval of the 2022 Genesee County Equalization Report.
Support.
It's been moved and supported, and with that, we do have a presentation from our Equalization Director.
Morning, Commissioners. I appreciate you letting me have this opportunity to present our 2022 equalization.
So can you stand in
Oh,
front of the
sorry.
microphone?
I'm like trying to see this. I'll go on this
It'll be
side.
up on the screen in
Yep.
front of you.
Okay, sorry. So it'll be up. I gotta push it though. So first, I'd like to take the time to talk about our equalization department staff and their duties that run this department that I couldn't do the work without. We have our, oops, I think I went too far. Let go back. Oh, I got it. Oh, I got a code arrow. Can't use the mouse for that. So we have our equalization coordinator, Kimberly Moores. She's been in our department for 22 years, and she oversees all the local unit database inputs. She's kind of our first step with the local units. She does monthly balances with all the local units monthly. She monitors our MTTs, and she works very close with our local unit assessors. We have our examiners, our chief examiner, Tony, and then we have 3 examiners under him. And together, they've inspected over and valued over 1,500 agricultural, commercial, and industrial properties for the 21 and 22 equalization study. We have our land records department, and we have a 7-year employee in that department, and she processes all the land divisions. She reviews legal documents and descriptions for the Register of Deeds and the County Treasurer's Office. She enters all of our sale documents and PTAs, and she does over 10,000 of these documents, not including, she helps with some maps on requests, and she also deals with the public that comes into the office. So as kind of a little fall off of our audit report, the property taxes is 56% of our general operating budget. And our assessed values are up 6.12% this year. Up from last year. And then you have attached the equalization report that contains the assessed and equalized values, and that's what you'll be approved or will be entertained for approval after this report. Oops, I went too far. Our taxable value this year is up 5.28%. So that's up from last year. We were at 3.99. We've had some major investments during the 2021 year. For 2022, we've had over $95 million in residential value, new value for 2022. That's up about $10 million from last year. You can see we've had mostly the larger was Davison Township, Fenton Township, and Grand Blanc Township. Those were the same as last year, so they're continuing to increase. We have our consumer energies and Michigan Electric. We're at about 42 million up for consumers energy. It's down from last year because they finished off their Saginaw pipeline, that trail project that they had that was wrapped up in 2021. So now they just have some new from maintenance and refurbishing. And then we have some commercial and industrial new value highlights. We've had, last year was reported that in Fenton Township, there was a Vicinia Independent Living, and that finished up this year. We have in Grand Blanc Township, a new commercial credit union that's partial complete. They'll be finishing up again. We have a new hotel in Grand Blanc also. City of Fenton, we have some duplexes, and those are only at 1% complete, so they're still working on those. We have in City of Flint, there probably is other new construction in there, but some of that is, they have abatements or exemptions, so we don't collect taxes on those, so those wouldn't be included in our list. But they have the Ashley Home Store, it is Oprah, so we get part of that. So that there was a charter school in Flint Township and another new commercial facility. We have Mount Morris, they did have an industrial grow facility. That's only partial complete. And then we have storage units in Fenton Township, and then Flint Township, they had a new deli. So that's a total of over $15 million in new for our commercial. We've had others, but those were the significant ones. Some pictures of the new developments. We have our historical data from 23 to 22. You can see the changes that have occurred. So 2013, we've had from last year to this year in our agricultural properties, we've actually had a decrease in value of 0.36%. And that's because there were several properties that were reviewed and reclassified. So some of the ag properties may not have been actually being used as ag as their highest and best use, so they might have been residential. So specifically Argentine Township had gone through and reviewed some things, so they were moved out of the ag class to another class. So that's why you see that decrease. Our commercial property has had an increase of 2.23% from last year to this year. Industrial, 3.86% from last year to this year. And our residential, 7.76% from last year. The personal property, 1.03% increase. So last year we had a significant increase because of the solar farms, because those are reported in there. So this year it's not up as much because we didn't have any of that new. So our total assessed value increase from 21 to 22 is 6.12%, which is a significant increase from last year. This is a graph depicts from the increases for the changes from 2013 to 2022. As you can see, in 2013 we were negative 2.04%. So we've been slowly getting back that taxable value, or assessed value, sorry. So our assessed value ranking, we have our top 5. Get to that, my notes are on here. They're the same top 5 as last year. We have Grand Blanc Township, Fenton Township, Flint Township, City of Flint, and City of Burton. Then it goes from there for all the 28 units. And the changes, this is the percent change of SEV from 21 to 22. And we have top 5 are City of Montrose, City of Mount Morris, Genesee Township, City of Clio, and City of Flushing. City of Clio and City of Flushing are newer in the top 5 this year, so they've had a little bit of development and could be sales too that they've had changes in. And the next slide is the bar graph for our change in taxable value from 2013 to 2022. And you can see we had 2 years of negative in there, and this taxable value is slowly increasing back up. We are at, from last year with 3.99 to this year 5.28. And we have the top taxable value rankings, and the top 5 on there, Grand Blanc, Fenton, Flint Township, and City of Flint and City of Burton, they're the same top 5 in the SEV ranking, and they're the same as last year as well. So they're holding stable. And our changes in percents by taxable value from last year to this year is Fenton Township, City of Mount Morris, City of Montrose, Clayton, City of Flushing are our top 5 in there. So our grand total taxable values for 2022, these are the top 8 this year that have the most taxable value in the county. These are the ones for over 500 million. We actually added another one this year. Last year we had 7. This year we have 8 local units with a taxable value, including the special acts rolls of over 500 million. So some concerns moving forward for Genesee County. This year, their inflation rate multiplier was 3.3%, which is the multiplier is 1.033. Last year, it was 1.014, so 1.4%. So it's gone up considerably. That's why you're seeing the increase in our taxable values. So we're going to be seeing rollbacks. But you're still, the rollback isn't reducing what you're collecting. It's just not allowing you to collect over that 3.3%. Positive signs. The city of Flint values continue to go up. They've been still going up 6.61% for the values, and taxable values up 3.98%. Our tribunals, our MTT tribunals have gone down. We're at 40 million total estimated taxable value in contention. And last year, that's down from last year because we were at like over 50 million last year. And we anticipate around the same number. It just depends on, the board of the reviews where a lot of everybody said they were way down this year. So it could mean the commercial don't have to go to the board of review. They can go straight to tribunal. So, but we anticipate about the same. And our land bank 550 rolls, those continue to decrease. They decreased to over $2 million again this year. Last year it was over $3 million. So now those values will go on our ad valorem roll to collect the taxes. So over 2023, we're estimating the SEVs are still going to continue to increase and the taxable values are going to increase. Not sure really, we can't predict how much just because values have been going up so much. We don't know if they're going to continue or it's going to stabilize a little bit. So, but they will be increasing. So, and that is it. So thank you for your presentation, Chair. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Any questions for our Equalization Director? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Not a question, just a statement. Great job. Appreciate it. Thank you. The information's always very helpful in assessing things, so thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your guys' support all the time, too. Thank you.
All right, there has been moved and supported to accept the equalization report. Is there any other discussion on the equalization report? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion is adopted. Item number 2, Resolution 22-239, approval of a contract between Genesee County 7th Circuit Court and Teamsters 214. It has been moved and supported. Any discussion? Commissioner Shoemaker.
If I could have our Director of HR actually come up. It's probably going to be the same question you've heard from me a million times, but. Morning. Through the chair, if I may, this contract follows the same format as.
The same pattern as all the previous, yes.
So we're taking ARP dollars and using them as part of the incentive.
That is part of the tentative agreement, yes.
Now, is there not just cost of living adjustment in this, but there's also a wage adjustment in this one?
This unit has 3 pay scales. One of the 3 is being adjusted to align with other comparable counties.
Okay. Thank you. I have a few more questions here or statements here. One, I'm seeing this from a lot of the contracts that we've had that adjustment, but when we sat through one contract, we told them there was no more dollars available for anything like that, and that was the captain's and lieutenant's contract. Now I'm hearing that they're upset that there might have been, and I can't say there is or isn't, some unfair labor practices there, but that's very disturbing to me. As far as this goes, I'll be a no, because I still don't believe in bribing our employees. I believe a basic cost of living is a fair and equal right of everybody, and I think this is temporary. It doesn't last long-term, and in 3 years, they're going to be struggling with their levels of pay, but that's a whole different conversation. But I would like to tell the employees I do support them, but I am not in support of anything when you throw ARPA dollars into that portion of it, so thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Nay.
The motion is adopted. Item number 3, Resolution 22-279, a request to create a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. It has been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pull this up, I apologize here. My first question is, we've had a committee for this, and I was just wondering what the movement is towards forming this as a formal committee and
Sure. So it was previously created as an ad hoc committee under the discretion of the chair of the board, and therefore the chair had the sole discretion to create it, to remove it, and to put members on that board. What this does is this creates it as a commission, so it is a standing thing that outlasts a single chairperson, and that those members, rather than one person selecting them, the commission selects the public members, and then this board would select who sits on the commission. Go ahead.
if I may continue, why wouldn't this fall under Health and Human Services? That chair? That's just a thought, and I'm just trying to understand.
The entire commission? What do you mean?
As far as this board, we have subsets of committees and so on and so forth. Like, example, the Health Department falls under Health and Human Services, even though we have a Health Department. So I'm just wondering why this
Right,
wouldn't
but the
fall under
health, there's a
and
separate health board. This would be just like, this would just be like that. There's a separate health board. Parks falls under Public Works, but there's still a Parks board.
So what that's going to be is going to fall under Charles's committee when it actually comes in front of us then?
Yeah.
Okay. If I may continue, as many of you know, I've sat on this since the formation of it, and I've tried to be a supporter of this. And part of the diversity thing is make sure all are included, all groups, and all voices. And I'm a little concerned with the fact is that this approval process, the way it is, that we're not going to get full diversity and everybody having a voice at the table. Unfortunately, when politics are involved, unfortunately, voices sometimes get skipped out because of political necessity and survival. I'm deeply concerned with that, not just from a race perspective, but from more of a religious perspective. During our meetings, I've not seen anyone from, as far as I know, the Muslim community actually involved in our committee, or the Jewish community. And these are the type of things that we need to be inclusive of to form a better county, and that's what I believe this board was created for. I'm concerned with politics being involved in the appointments of these people. And on top of that, I think if you're going to be really fair, you're going to actually form the committee to have diverse perspectives as far as outlook on things. As far as I felt, and this is just me, I was the only conservative individual on that entire board. Now, 48% of our county, generally 47 somewhere in there, votes Republican or identifies as conservative. That doesn't seem like a very balanced committee. And if we want diversity, we want all ideas, because that's where good things happen, I believe. And I think the chair and I have had several conversations about this, and we agree. So I'm very concerned with that we're not going to have this. And my next issue is, who's going to chair this? Is it going to be someone from the committee that's appointed, or is it going to be actually a member of this board,
So the commission would elect their chair.
just like the health board?
Yep.
Okay. And who are we thinking to be the appointees of commissioners?
The Board of Commissioners will appoint the commissioners that sit on that, just like we do with the other boards.
Okay. And when is that planned to take place?
That would take place, they're staggered terms, and that was, I think, listed in the resolution.
Okay. I like the way it was. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of the way it was done. I'm a little upset that I wasn't given notice, considering I sit on that committee, and I wasn't given notice this was even being brought in front of us till it was thrown on here, and it makes me kind of regret my statements at the end of the last meeting about transparency.
So I will repute that in that this was a 4-month process on the committee that you sat on, and in the last 2 committees we talked about, this was going to be when it was being brought on the board.
I will agree to disagree with you on that.
We can gladly go back to the minutes.
You can go back to the minutes, but guess what? When you say 4 months ago you're gonna do it and you don't do it, eventually, guess what? It's like my kids tell me they're gonna pick up the laundry. Guess what? It doesn't get done for 4 months.
I'm
You think,
saying
guess
over
what?
those
It's gone by.
over those 4 months, as we were meeting to craft this policy, and you were a part of those meetings, we had feedback, there's emails back and forth, we asked for changes, and we kept saying, all right, this is the final date to do that. That happened at the meeting in March when we did that, and we said we're bringing this in the next month to the board.
Well, I will disagree respectfully. I'm not trying to get into a heated debate over this because I think if done correctly, could be fair. I don't think it is right now being done fairly. I don't think all voices are being heard. And I'm a little upset by that. I respect what you're trying to do with this. I really do. And my heart goes out to some of the stories. I've heard some of the events I've been into, and I think you can actually say, anyone who sat in that, I have been a full participant in trying to participate in every aspect of it. One of my fears with limiting it to 2 commissioners, one is the political side of it, obviously. The other is the majority of this board is Democrat. That doesn't represent all the voices. And the reason you have so many Democrats down here and no one will argue it with me is that districts are drawn that way and have been drawn that way for decades. I am in support of what you're trying to do. I don't like the process, so for right now, unless we were willing to change the appointment process, I'm going to be a no. I'm not in support of the committee, but I'm not in support of the way the process is set up. But I do understand where you're trying to go. I hope there's room for improvement. I also would ask that I please be named to that committee still and continue on there, but that's up to the board from that standpoint. So thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
Nay.
The motion is adopted. And I'll move us on to, sorry, Commissioner
Chair,
Shoemaker.
I just wanted to add under that a few, an item if I could, or two, if possible. Let me go back here. We had discussed, and you and I, and Commissioner Freeman and Commissioner Davis, or Mr. Freeman and Commissioner Davis. Downgrade. Trust me, I'd trade you paychecks. In the light of Mr. Gleason's arrest and the fact that Ms. Funk is suspended without pay, I am requesting that this board send another letter to the Secretary of State pleading for help during this next election, not the May election, the August and September.
November.
Or, I'm sorry, yeah, November, I'm sorry. I'm really concerned, one, that people are already disenfranchised with the process, and that's both sides if you look at polls and studies. And I think our faith has even been more shaken by the arrest of Mr. Gleason in this county. And I don't care, I've talked to people on both sides of the aisle, they're very concerned with this. They were concerned before when he hired someone that everybody had understood this was pretty much gossip around. And I understand he couldn't get anybody work down there, but I still think it's because of practices down there that scare away employees that are investigating and continue to investigate. But I would like to put a motion forward that we send another letter pleading our case that their previous letter sent was just addressing the Kathy Funk issue. Since then, Mr. Gleason has been charged, and I would ask that they send somebody in to help us with the upcoming primary and general election. So that's my request.
I'll support it.
It's been moved and supported. This would be to add this to the agenda. Is there any discussion on adding this to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote to add this to the agenda, needing 6 votes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
The item has been added to the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to pass the item?
I would like to make the motion to pass the item.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? I would like to start the floor with discussion. I think Commissioner Shoemaker is absolutely right. There's been a lot going on in that office, and there are things that are continuing to be investigated. I would be helpful to have the reassurance from the Secretary of State's office in the upcoming August election, but what I do want to say, and I want to make it very clear on the record, as things have been swirling in the media and what we have been talking about, I think we need to take a second to recognize, outside of the clerk and Kathy Funk, there are several people in the county clerk's office that have been there long before Mr. Gleason was ever elected to office and will likely be there after he is gone, that are nonpartisan, that do good work, that do important work for this county. They are folks that operate with integrity, and they just want to do their job and serve the county, and I just want to make sure that we are recognizing those clerk employees that are being put in the mix of this that have nothing to do with the allegations of what's been happening. Commissioner Shoemaker.
Well said. And I don't think it's people's doubt in those employees as much as the fact, one, I'm concerned with they're going to be overwhelmed. And then errors do occur. But on top of that, it would be nice to assure people that the Secretary of State cares enough, because I'm sorry, after the last letter, I think that was a snub to Genesee County. We are still are we the fourth or fifth largest county? We're the fifth largest county, I guess, in the state. I think we do deserve some respect as far as the fact that it should be viewed as important to her, and she needs to express the fact that it's minimal in their budget to send somebody over here to help us. It is. It's just very minimal, and it just, I think, would let people know that, guess what? They take this serious. They take the charges against Mr. Gleason very seriously in Lansing, as we should, and we did. And I thank everyone here for moving it forward, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion is adopted. The board will send a letter to the Secretary of State's office. That'll move us on into our agenda to, sorry, Commissioner Shoemaker.
I'm sorry. Mr. Woodson had mentioned a resolution of support sent to Lansing for a cancer cluster study. I would like to add that to the agenda also, so we could just pass a resolution saying over that we are in support of that.
Sure.
I'll support that, and, I'll support that. And do we have discussion on it?
So this would be to add it to the agenda. So the one thing that I'll say, I don't know, maybe you all already have language for a resolution, but if not, it may be asked we take it back to the Health and Human Services Committee for us to craft language. But if we have it, then we can discuss it. But there's a motion and a second to add this to the agenda. So again, we'll do discussion on adding it to the agenda, and then we need 6 votes.
Okay, the discussion was, when he came and spoke a couple of weeks ago, I emailed the entire report to everybody, so I hope you had an opportunity to look over it. It's a very detailed report, and I think this is something that we really should look at. And I do know that the health department has wanted to look at doing something like this. And I think if we put the letter together and send it to the state, I think that'll put some teeth behind it. And we can see something done, because I think it's very needed. Thank you.
All right. Other discussion, adding it to the agenda? Being that we need 6 votes, we'll take a roll call.
Yes.
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 All right, the item has been added to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the item?
I'll move it.
It's been moved and supported. We'll open the floor for discussion. Again, I go back to what we specifically are requesting in the resolution.
We are requesting that the State Health Department actually provide funds and more research into a cancer cluster study for Genesee County residents, specifically Flint, based on the water crisis. I don't want to just direct it towards Flint, though, because a lot of those residents have moved out and are living in Flint Township or are living in Swartz Creek or other areas. So I don't want to just make it as far as Flint, but they can decide that from there. And if Commissioner Nolan has anything else to add to it, I would love to have some input. So, is that fair? Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? So the only thing I would maybe add is in this, I think outside of just MDHHS, there's also a federal element to this, and maybe we need to make sure that that's part of the conversation as well.
If you would like to send it to the federal level, I'd be more than happy to add that to my motion.
All right, thank you. It's been moved and supported. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion is adopted.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we'll move on to Community and Economic Development. Meredith Davis, Chairperson.
Item 1, approval of a contract between Genesee County and the Floyd J. McCree Theater in amount not to exceed $82,340 to provide for installation of air conditioning units.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Commissioner
Chairman, I'd like the
Winfrey.
record to reflect that I'm abstaining from that vote.
Thank you. The motion has been adopted.
Item 2, approval of a modification number 1 of a contract between Genesee County and Fenton Township, adjusting the scope of work to allow for senior programming.
It has been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion is adopted.
Item 3, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and the City of Flint and environmental rubber recycling to provide for a used tire collection event.
It has been moved and it has been supported. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Shoemaker.
If Derek could just come up for the public watching so they know what the actual date is and when it's taking place and what's allowed.
Absolutely.
Great.
Our Director of Planning, give us the details.
Good morning, Chair, through you to the Commissioner. The date is in May. We still haven't, it's a coordination issue, so we should have that, I hope, next week. So we'll send that out and we'll put it on our Facebook page. So it's probably mid to the end weekend of May. So one of the last 2 weekends. We're accepting tires off the rim. So any tire off the rim, no agricultural tires, so no great big tractor tires. And it's 100% free. So any of the people outside the city of Flint that want to bring tires, City of Flint, it's a good program because we're coordinating with a tire event that's already happening. So the City of Flint already has one. We have funding from, we got a special grant for this, and it's at a tire recycler on Dort Highway.
And just some of the rules so they understand, like, businesses are not.
Yeah, residential only, right? And if you're a specific, like a nonprofit group that does cleanups or stuff like that, get a hold of us in advance, because we can make sure we can accommodate you as well. So we do have some neighborhood groups and watershed coalitions, stuff like that do a lot of cleanups, and we'll be able to take care of, so nonprofits and residential. But this is not for businesses. Businesses, that's a whole different animal.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion is adopted. Is there any report from the chair?
Yeah, so I am in the exploratory phases of looking into getting Genesee County to be a certified local government. It's something that several other counties like Macomb are benefiting from. It has to do with historic preservation, and it actually allows us access to some funding for historic preservation projects. So I'll be talking with you all in the coming weeks, as well as welcoming input from the community.
Right, thank you. That'll move us on to our Finance Committee. Gary Pepin, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All these items have been approved in Finance Committee, and I would move 1 through 19. Or
Item 1 through 19 has been moved. Commissioner Shoemaker, for any pullouts.
Just let me look at my list here. I apologize. It's taking me a little longer because I forgot my glasses, but had three last, I think it was three, was one of the ones I pulled out. I don't know exactly. I apologize right now. I don't remember why. I had three pulled out. And unfortunately, when we switched them from letters to numbers, you know, I still got my letters written down. So
19?
I have F, G, H, and from, apologize. '19 would definitely be one. I'm sorry, there's so many on here, I should have. I think I had most of my questions answered from last time, so just 19 if I could.
Okay, so just 19 or 3 and 19?
No, I had my questions answered on 3.
Okay, so just 19. So 1 through 18, is that acceptable to the motion maker and the supporter? All right. Is there any discussion on items 1 through 18? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Items 1 through 18 are adopted. That'll move us on to item 19.
Approval of a request to provide $20,000 in accommodation tax funding for soccer events to be held in Genesee County. Move it. The funding will come from accommodation tax fund balance.
It has been moved and supported. We will open the floor for discussion. Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Peppin, for removing that. My problem with this is nothing to do with that we're helping provide this event. My frustration is that we provide the chamber with $1 million Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we keep maybe $300,000, $400,000 for ourselves. Most of it goes to the parks, and the rest stays here. And we're taking from those funds, which are not as large, and they're bringing no skin to this game to help out. And it's going to benefit their organization. And as continued, it seems a very one-sided relationship with us receiving very little in return. I'm totally in support with this. I had a conversation with the owner. He was very kind and reached out to me, and I think what they're doing is actually wonderful. I think it's going to be a good event. But I'm just a no right now because I really feel that the chamber should have helped with part of this, especially with the amount of cash we actually give them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Nay.
The motion is adopted. Is there any report from the Finance Chair?
None at this time.
Thank you. That'll move us on to Governmental Operations. Commissioner Nolden, Chairperson.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I would like to move 1 through 5 because they've been through committee.
Support.
All right, it's been moved to items 1 through 5. It has also been supported. Is there any discussion on items 1 through 5? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion is adopted. Is there any report from the chairperson?
None at this time.
Section E, Human Services Committee, Commissioner Winfrey, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to, at this time, move items 1, 2, and 3.
There's been a motion. Is there support? It has been moved and supported. Any discussion on items 1, 2, and 3? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion is adopted. Is there any report from the Health and Human Service Committee Chair?
No report at this time.
Thank you. Wrapping us out is Public Works. Commissioner Ellen Ellenberg, Chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you, we have discussed this, plus we had an extra meeting on Public Works also. I would like to move 1 through 9.
Support.
It's been moved and supported for items 1 through 9 on the Public Works agenda. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Shoemaker.
If we could just remove 9 for me, please.
Is that acceptable to the motion maker and the seconder?
Yes.
All right. Items 1 through 8 is what is under consideration. Are there any discussion on those items? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion is adopted. Item 9. Commissioner Ellenberg.
Oh, I'm sorry, number 9. Approval of modification number 7 of a contract between Genesee County and E&L Construction in the amount not to exceed $262,922.35 to provide for roofing material, and the cost of this change order will be paid from the construction contingency account.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. We'll open the floor for discussion. Commissioner Shoemaker.
As stated last time, and Mr. Freeman did a great job explaining why we have this increase in this project. If he could just do a little quicker version of that, so residents understand, or just watching this meeting, why there's an actual increase.
Sure, essentially it boils down to supply chain issues. The original type of roofing material that we were going to use was not available for an extended period of time that would have delayed the project for 4 to 5 months. And we were able to find a substitute material that was a little bit more, but it's actually going to save us dollars if we don't have to delay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion is adopted. Is there any unfinished business? There is none. Is there any new miscellaneous or other business to bring before the board? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Mr. Chair, if I may, to the entire board, we had a wonderful meeting with our IT director, Public Works did, and I've also talked to Crystal several times about how we can use these ARP funds and more effective ways to use these ARP dollars. I was wondering if we could arrange a meeting, like a workshop for commissioners, so we could throw our ideas out there and they could be researched whether these are fundable projects or not. If we could put something together within the month of May sometime, if that would be possible.
I'll assign that over to our Director of Administration to do an after-board retreat like we've done in the past months.
Just a quick, is everybody kind of questioning what we can and can't on these things a lot, or is it just me? Okay, all right, thank you.
After maybe our next board, May 4th? Does that work for everybody?
May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, okay.
Is there any other business to come before the board? Seeing none, we stand adjourned at 10:25 a.m.